Hi guys, let's get into a little reading. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscribes, and to those of you who have booked a personal reading with me, please keep in mind that these are general messages, so do not take them personally. Take the messages that resonate and leave the rest behind. If you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can find the information in the description box below. Let's get into it. What message do you have for the collective at this time? Help me to articulate a clear and concise message in order for it to be received in the way that you want it to best be received. Help me to see what it is I need to see to get the message across as clear as possible. And help me to deliver any messages that you deem worthy in order to serve your highest good, for the highest good of humanity with harm to none. What messages do you have for the collective at this time? What messages do you have for the collective at this time? I may need to cover some of these up for the sake of YouTube. Oops. Okay, so just off this energy here, there is something that, gosh, the cards are trying to fly everywhere. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let's see if I can grab those. Okay. All right, there is something that you have been kind of guided towards that you know that you're supposed to be investing in, but it seems as if it may have taken you some time to truly give into this sadness. Yeah. So, and I'm just covering this up because YouTube will flag it for what's on it. But there's something that you intuitively are aware that you should be investing in, whether this is, again, a business, a hobby, a purpose, something that you are supposed to be bringing to life, right? And it's almost as if like you have been intuitively guided to give to whatever this is. However, there is a sense of imbalance here in the way that you give to this, right? So this could be, again, like a business, something that you're creating or something that you are trying to bring into full bloom. But it's almost as if like whatever you're giving is not sustainable enough to nurture it to its fullest potential, right? And so it's almost like in this phase of you investing, you feel that sense of security. You feel that sense of fulfillment. You feel that sense of celebration, as the card suggests, right? But when you disconnect from it in another phase, right, you feel this sense of sadness. Because if you look at the cards, you see the moon here is in the center of the third eye, right? Which means that you are aware of what you're supposed to be giving, how much you're supposed to be giving, the discipline, the effort, you're aware of, you have the full picture of the circumstances, right? However, you have not fully committed to the growing pains and the growing phases of whatever this investment is. And that's what's causing this dichotomy, I guess, right? But there also is a lesson that you are learning in this, that the less you give, or how can I phrase this? When you take a step back from investing, it's almost like you start back at ground zero, right? And so the lesson is knowing how to remain consistent, knowing how to remain disciplined in your efforts, right? So that the growth that you're expecting to receive from this investment is sustainable, right? Because to know something is one thing, but to act on that is something completely different, right? So it's almost like you know what consistent effort, what sustainability will look like, right? What the fruit of this garden will bring if you engage in it or invest in it consistently, right? But there's also just like this sense of, I don't want to say unworthiness, because you know that you're worthy because it's tangible, right? It's something that already exists within your reality. So it's not something that's out of your reach. So it's obviously something that you're deserving of. But there is a sense of I guess defensiveness, maybe, to how you receive. Ooh, okay. So there's a disconnect in the way that you receive the efforts that you give, right? Because what you give, again, isn't sustainable. So what you receive from this imbalance within the phases, it's almost as if you again are defensive to that. And I'm wondering if I should get a different deck. But we'll see what comes out of these. The Warrior of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Yeah. Yeah, it's inconsistent. And so that brings you this sense of the Page of Cups. That gives you this sense of like, because the Nine of Pentacles is in reverse, it's like you feel as if you're not receiving what you're giving. However, what you're giving is so inconsistent that it's almost, the efforts are like lackluster, if that makes sense. Because again, like if you have a garden and you don't consistently water it, you don't consistently give it fertilizer, you don't consistently check the levels of the soil, right? Then the fruit that you get from it may not be as healthy or as nourishing as you would like for it to be, because the efforts that you give it are, again, not consistent. They're not balanced. There isn't a sort of discipline, right? There has to be consistency in order for you to receive what it is that you're looking for from it, right? There are things that are, and it almost seems as if like whatever this is that you're choosing to invest in, I don't want to say it's temperamental, but it is very, how can I put this into words? What you're wishing to receive from it, you have to make sure that you're being disciplined enough in your efforts to give, right? I don't know how to make that any clarify intuition. The Five of Pentacles in reverse and the Nine of Cups, because you know that if you and I don't look, the Ten of Pentacles, you know what you have the ability to receive from whatever this investment is, right? But because you are in this space of feeling like you don't have enough to give, even though the reality is that you know that you do, right? That's why you're not receiving what you desire, right? It's almost as if like you're trying to trick yourself or trick this investment into maybe perceiving that there isn't enough to give, there isn't enough discipline, there isn't enough effort to give to this when there is, right? Because you know there is. Yeah, the Temperance, and underneath that is the Temperance. There's an awareness, there's a knowing of what you can receive from this, of what sense of fulfillment this will bring. But there's also a lack of discipline, a lack of effort, a lack of attentiveness to what it is that you're trying to grow. And that's what's creating the instability. Clarify, sadness. The Page of Cups was at the bottom of the deck earlier, and then you have the Strength. Yeah. There's a reckoning is what came to me. Five of Wands. Yeah. There's a reckoning. A sense of making peace with something, but also having to, because look, what she's crying are tears of everything that she perceived would come to pass, but did not come to pass because of the lack of effort, because of the lack of discipline, because the lack of attentiveness, right? So whatever it was that you were investing in, there wasn't an environment created to make sure that this investment was sustainable enough to thrive, right? And so now there has to be some sort of level of vulnerability, right? Level of acknowledgement. There has to be the Page of Cups can sometimes speak to an apology, right? With the Strength here, that's like, how can I put this into words? I don't want to say a strong apology because that seems like too simple, but also like for the change that this created in the inconsistency, right? Because to create a sustainable environment is one thing, but to actively make choices, to make a deliberate choice to not give to something, is creating an environment of chaos. And that is essentially what you are aware of, right? This wasn't something that just happened, right? Because you knew the purpose, you were aware of the phases and stages of growth that it had to experience, right? You were aware of what was required of you to bring this to life, and yet there were choices and decisions that you made that it's almost like you, again, deliberately created an environment of chaos, which is more harmful than than doing it unknowingly, right? I mean, I don't really know what is more harmful or less harmful, but it's almost as if, how can I express this? I don't know. There's a real sense of union that has to take place here within yourself, right? For one, acknowledging the lesson that you learned from this in choosing the path of chaos, right? But there's also, it's almost as if like you have to come into union with the lesson that you have learned from this experience, right? And knowing that nothing healthy can thrive in an environment that was created to cause chaos. If you're deliberately choosing not to water your garden, you're deliberately choosing not to have healthy fruit, right? Let's get 4 cards to close this message out. This was seems short and sweet, right? One message for the major lesson we can learn surrounding this message. One card for what we can create surrounding this message. One card for what we can meditate on surrounding this message. And one card for the new cycles and habits we can innovate surrounding this message. One card for the major lesson. There is a sense of like, I am getting a sense of like learning to be flexible, right? Because what I'm seeing here is a tree. What I'm seeing here is almost like an infant tree, right? Going through a storm. But it's almost as if like trees need those rough, harsh rains and winds at an early stage so that they can learn to be stable and firm in their maturity, right? The winds and the chaos that comes from the storm ultimately strengthen the roots of the tree so that they become more stable. And that's the major lesson here, right? Needing to learn how to let go of a few loose leaves that are draining the life force of the system, right? Because if you know anything about gardening, you know that any dead limbs or leaves or fruits or anything of that sort, the tree or the plant will send most of their energy to heal that part of it that's sick, which in effect will drain the life force from all of the other things that are attached to it because it is focusing on the thing that is the least healthy, right? And so in order to maintain the health of the entire system, you have to remove what is sick, right? Or draining the life force from the whole system, right? One card for what we can learn surrounding this message. Breath of the Cosmos. Oops. Yeah. So in this also, so micromanaging the universe, the fated life versus the destiny life, right? So again, you have to, one, know the difference between your destiny and your fate, right? Fate is the only difference between your fate and your destiny are the choices that you make, right? And so your fate is one thing, but when you choose to ignore the path in which your fate is trying to guide you, you ultimately choose your own destiny, right? So it's important to understand why you feel called to something, why you feel guided to something, because again, this is something that you feel connected to, right? This is something that you are aware of, that you know that you should be investing in, because you are aware of not just the fruit that it will bring, but the connection that it is to you. Because this isn't something that is just, this isn't something you're investing in just because you find joy and a thrill, right? This is something that is connected to your soul's purpose. And when you disconnect from your soul's purpose, you essentially disconnect from the essence of your being, right? Because you are your soul. You have a mind, you have a body, you are the soul, right? And so when you disconnect from anything that is connected to the aspect of your soul, you're disconnecting from yourself. And to be disconnected from yourself is to be completely lost in a world of discovery, right? One card for what we can create surrounding this message. Star Brothers. A new earth. You can create what it is that you know you're supposed to be investing in, right? The mirror. Coming into union with what it is that you know you are aligned with. A new earth is happening, right? Now is the time. 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we're back. So what you can create from this is, again, learning to trust yourself in this process, learning to not only trust yourself, but to trust the process in itself, right? Learning to trust the phases of growth that you will experience when you invest in this, right? Learning to feel safe enough in knowing that your continued efforts will build this sense of sustainability that you're seeking from this, right? One card for what we can meditate on surrounding this message. Goodness, I'm sorry. Remember, I said here the apology. So there has to be a level of forgiveness here. There has to be a level of, and then here you have again the 2, but it also seems like 4, because if you look down here at the bottom of this card, there's 2 people up here, but then there's also, I don't know if you can see the heads that are made out of the roots here, right? So remember that what you can meditate on is forgiveness, right? Learning how to forgive yourself for not being disciplined enough to see this through, but also forgiving yourself for having to learn these lessons in the way that you did, because it may seem like whatever it is that you experienced in this may seem like you may have felt a little bit, I'm seeing the root uprooted here. That's really standing out. So you may have felt like uprooted, right? You may have felt as if there was a sense of you going through this phase of unbecoming, right? And maybe you did go through that phase of unbecoming, right? Because you had to learn how to let go of those things that were draining the life force, right? That were draining from the whole system. double mission, right? There also is a sense that this is not just whatever this is you're investing in is not just to serve you. It's to serve a the whole system, right? And so when you understand that life is not a singular motion, that everything is intricately combined, then you will better understand that what you do affects everything around you. And you will also be more aware of how it affects everything around you, right? What you do or don't do, right? Again, deliberately choosing not to nurture something that you know you are connected to soulfully is deliberately choosing to create chaos, because you're deliberately choosing to unbecome of one of yourself, right? So there's a sense of mending happening in here as well within this apology. There's a mending happening within the apology, because I'm also seeing that between these two, the roots are the roots of the tree are intertwining in between, right? So within this apology, within this level of forgiveness, there is a mending happening, right? But there also has to be a sense of redirection, a sense of correction as well, right? That's a part of the double mission, if that makes sense as well. And one card for the new cycles and habits we can innovate to contribute to the growth and expansion surrounding this message: Earth and the great severing, unbecoming to become, surrender to the sweetness, right? There is the new cycle is letting go, right? Because there's a severing here. Remember, letting go of the poison. There's a disconnection, right? Softening to love, that you have to learn how to be flexible in order to be more firm, to be more firmly grounded, to be more firmly rooted, right? Surrender to what it is that you know you will receive from this, right? But also know that surrendering does not mean to be effortless. It means to be intentional. It means to be disciplined. It means to be committed. It means to be sustainable, right? It means to be continuous, right? So just because something will make you softer, just because something will make you more open, more vulnerable, that doesn't mean that it will make you weak. It, in a sense, will make you firmer, right? You won't be stale, but you won't be mushy. You'll be firmly grounded in the unity of you, in the unity of what you try to create, in the unity of what you desire, right? In the unity of pleasure, in the unity of joy, right? This is giving look, perspective. There's that eye, right? Again, there's the eye. If you can see it, that means it's visible. And if it's visible, that means it's obtainable. That does not mean that there won't be challenges. That does not mean that there will be a lack of effort. In essence, that means quite the opposite. It will be more of an effort. It will require more of an effort. But you will receive everything that you are desiring, the ease, the flow, the sweetness, the level of security, the level of safety, the level of protection, the level of growth, the level of abundance. You will receive all of that, but it will not be without effort, right? But that is the message that I have for you guys. I hope that it resonated. I know that if you made it to the end of this video, you have found something in it that is worthy and valuable to you. Thank you for watching. Bye.